share with you a color-coded report. So green is good. The darker the green, the better. Wherever we see red, we have some problem areas, okay? This is a missed questions teacher report. I was a middle school science teacher. I would have loved to have known what all my students are struggling with. I imagine it's the same in high school. You have to figure out what they're struggling with, maybe through a diagnostic test or a benchmark test or a lot of questioning, probably more than you have time to do. LearnSmart is constantly figuring out what your students know and what they don't know. And this missed questions teacher report will tell you what all students are missing collectively, what they're not understanding. And since we're determining at LearnSmart not only if they get it right or wrong, but also their confidence level, there are these metacognitive reports. And the reason LearnSmart is such a big deal, and I'm emphasizing it, it's student performance. It's been so successful in our AP and college programs at McGraw-Hill for many years now, and there's so much efficacy data that supports it that we brought it down to high school and even middle school as well, okay? So let's continue. A couple of resources in print. Before we go online, I just want to highlight a couple more things, and then we're going to go online. You may have or may not have recognized you have a reading essentials. It's on the right-hand side. It mirrors the student book on the left-hand side. Same headings, same subheadings. But as we look through the reading essentials, notice it's a little bit cleaner, more white space. It's written 2 to 3 grade levels below the student book on the left. If you're a biology teacher or a physical science teacher, you have a reading essentials. If you teach biology, chemistry, physical science, or earth science, you all have a notebook, science notebook. And on the left-hand side, again, you see the student edition. On the right-hand side, you see the science notebook. So what's the difference here? The right-hand side is based on the Cornell system for notes. Main idea on the left, keep it very clean, just the main ideas. Indent and put the supporting details. So your students' notes have some structure. Many students' notes are a hodgepodge of information on the page. They have very little structure. And they're not really usable come test time. Well, the Cornell Notes is a way to give them that structure and make these notes usable. So I'm going to share with you what that is as well. So before I go online in about 60 seconds or so, it's important to know, to get familiar with the online experience, to just refresh of what the student experience looks like, because everything online mirrors the organization of the student book. So if you're familiar with how the book is organized, you're familiar with how the online experience is organized in many ways. So I've got physics here as an example, Inspire Physics. And Inspire Physics is broken down by units and a lot of modules. And those modules are broken down into lessons. At the module level, you'll see an Encountering the Phenomena feature. And it'll ask you to look for a video online. Okay? It says go online and play the video about this phenomenon. So where are we going to find the video when we go online? We're going to find it at this module opener section. That's where it'll be located, the same place it's located in the book. You'll also see at the module opener the claim, evidence, and reasoning framework. It's right here on the 2-page module opener spread. That's exactly where you're going to find it online. Now we're at the end of the module, and we see things like wrapping up the claim, evidence, and reasoning, and a STEM project. This STEM project is found at the module level. So, so when we're looking at those resources, the module phenomena, the claim, evidence, and reasoning, STEM project, we're going to find these things at the module level. And then in between those modules are probably 2 to 5 lessons. And then, so then when we're looking for something at the lesson level, that's where we're going to find that stuff, okay? So let's take a look at the program through the eye of a teacher online. I'm going to toggle online, and we're going to take a look at a high school teacher's program online. Now I have the teacher side up right now, Inspire Biology. My name is Jason, so you see my name up here. I also happen to have a student up and running that we're going to take a look at here shortly. I'm going to toggle over there so you can see him. His name is Jim. And so I'm going to send Jim some assignments, and he's going to take them, and then we're going to go back to my teacher side, and we're going to see what it looks like. So let me go back to my teacher side, which is Jason. Okay. A few places I want to make you aware of is right into my name, Jason. So if you have an account with Inspire Science, there'll be a location that says Manage Account. When you click on Manage Account, there's a location that says Link to Google. Now mine says Unlink to Google because I'm already linked to Google. But if you haven't linked your account yet, you want to click there, link it to Google, in case you want to transfer some of this work into Google Classroom. If you're not interested in doing that, don't worry about it at all, okay? So that's where you're going to find it. You're going to find it in by going to your name and then click Manage Account. Another place I want to make you aware of is this Help location. If I click on the Help location, there's all sorts of great tools to help you in a remote learning environment. So if I wanted to go to Get Started and Project Navigation as a teacher, I'd go here. And then I would choose Inspire Science 2020, which is located here. You'll get all sorts of tutorial videos and such to help you in this situation. Okay? So I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm back in my teacher side. So don't forget these two locations right here. Over here on the left are my main navigation. So what we've discovered is a lot of teachers haven't been using the online experience a lot at all. So I'm going to proceed as if you know very little. Over here on the left is your main navigational tools. Now, I could hide these by clicking on this icon. They'll disappear, but why would I want to? I like to have these open. And when we go to Inspire Science for the first time, we enter the dashboard screen right here. It's kind of your home screen, if you will. Now, the assessments or pre-made tests are found here in Assessments. Scores get collected here in a grade book. Any assignments that you make will show up in Assignments. Let's take a look at my Assignment section. And I've made a pop quiz that's waiting for my student, Jim. It's already been created, and so it's here in my Assignment section. Anything that I make in Assignments automatically shows up in my calendar. Automatically. I don't have to add it to the calendar. There's my pop quiz. It automatically populates. And guess what, which is kind of nice, it automatically populates on the student calendar as well. So I'm in Jim's side now, in the student side. And here I have an assignment that I sent to Jim, that pop quiz, and he automatically has that assignment in his calendar as well. So I don't have to click a button to transfer it over to Jim. I don't have to go an extra step. When I create an assignment, it automatically populates on the student side, so they know exactly what's expected of them and when it's due. So let's start with the course view. Okay, that's the first place I'm going to start. I'm going to navigate the course view. The course view is the place to access your resources. Okay? And there's two ways of doing it because they're organized in different ways, and it's kind of a personal preference how you want to get to where you want to go. The first location is resources. And some of you might choose to find stuff this way. Let's choose this way first. I'm going to click on resources. Now, you might be a keyword search person. So let's say you wanted to find something related to cell. Everything related to that will pop up. I have 181 results. That's an awful lot. And I could drill down into whatever resource I want to find. But you know what? That's not filtered. That's not filtered enough for me. I might want to filter it even more. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go down an extra level and filter down into a specific unit. And let's say even a module within that unit. So I could choose to filter down by keyword. I could choose to filter down by module and unit. So I'm going to choose by Unit 2, the cell. And how about Module 7, structures and organelles? And as I do, it continues to filter down. Let's say I'm in structures and organelles, lesson 4. So I'm in Unit 2, the cell, Module 7, cellular structure and function, and I'm in lesson 4. And it will drill down into those specific resources that are addressed in that specific lesson. Now, it might be a virtual lab that I'm looking for. It might be a print resource that I'm looking for. Everything that's available in that specific lesson will appear. That's one way to find resources. The second way to find resources is by course view. So I'm just going to go over here to the left to my course view. I happen to prefer this way. The reason I like it is because it organizes my content into nice little handy digital file folders. And so if I click on this little icon right here, I'll be able to see my entire year, the entire table of contents digitally. And I can go to the specific module, unit module of the lesson that I want support for. So let's go to that same unit, Unit 2. Let's go into that same module, Module 7. Now here we're at the module view. So remember when I showed you the slides before, there was a module opener with the phenomena. right there in the student book, and it referenced a video that students go online to watch that module opener. Well, here at the module level is where I'm going to find it. Here's my module opener. And here's my phenomena video that it was referring to. Now, I was in physics on that slide that I show you. This happens to be biology. But all of our high school science titles are set up the same way. And here is that phenomena video waiting for me at the beginning of the module. I won't play it, but I encourage you to go and play it when you're perusing the site and taking a look at it. So all of my resources related to, there we go, all of my resources that are at the module level will show up in the module opener. And then after the module, remember I had that module wrap-up? Here's my module wrap-up waiting for me right here. Okay? So the module level will show the resources and activities that precede all lessons, like the module opener, and then the resources and activities that are after all lessons, like the module assessment. So after all the lessons are done, we go to this module assessment. And so that's what you're going to find at the module level. Okay? Activities that precede all of these lessons and activities that come in after all of these lessons. So let me go into a specific lesson, lesson 4. Now we're at the lesson level, and you may not have known that our lessons are organized into 5E lesson model. And I can go into any specific lesson and go into any specific part of this lesson and choose content that I might want to send a student. So let me go into what we call a learning object. Okay? So each one of these are different chunks that are a part of this lesson. Content, videos, interactives, and some assessments. And this one is explore and explain. So I'm going to take a look at it to see if this is something I want to assign to my students remotely. I'm just going to take a sneak peek. So I open up that learning object, and let's open it up all the way here. And I've got some content on cell structure and movement, okay, things my students can read. I've got an interactive here, things that they can click on. They click all layers here. So that's kind of cool for my students. Let me go to my second page. So it's 1 of 5 pages. I go to my second page, 2 of 5. Now I've got some things that are moving here. Cilia. I scroll down, flagella. Okay, so it's a textbook. It's a digital textbook, but it's a little bit more than that. It's an interactive version. Embedded video, embedded interactives with the content. My print textbook doesn't have all this stuff, and a lot of the ebooks don't have all this stuff right there on the page. And then I go to page 4, and it looks like I have some practice for my students. And then let's see what's on page 5. Page 5, it looks like there's going to be an assessment waiting for them, a test. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this to my students. Okay? And any resource, it might be a video, it might be a test, it might be something like we just looked at. Any resource in the program will always have this assign button. And when I click this assign button, what I'm going to see is the title of the assignment, when I want it to be due. I'm going to assign this and make it due on Monday. I'm going to give them some instructions. Read this section, highlight important topics, and take the quiz at the end. Don't forget to submit. It's important to tell students don't forget to submit, because it's the only way you're going to see their work is making sure that they submit. So I've assigned this. I'm going to assign this now. Now I've assigned it to my students, right? Everything that I assign will have this little red bar that shows up underneath that assignment, letting me know, hey, you assigned it, this is when it was assigned, and this is when it was due. When I've assigned it, it's going to show up automatically where? In my assignment section. Let's take a look. There it is. There's my new assignment. It wasn't there before. And where else will it show up? If you said the calendar, you're absolutely right. It will show up in the calendar as well, your calendar. Now, if you were here earlier in the presentation, you know that if I assigned it, that means it automatically shows up on my student side as well. Now, I won't go there right now, but when we do, you'll be able to see that this assignment that I just sent will automatically populate in their assignments and their calendar as well. So I have a pop quiz waiting for my students, and I have that assignment waiting for my students. Let me send them one more thing. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my course view, and let's look around a little bit more. Remember, I'm in Unit 2, the cell structure and function, structures and functions of organelles, lesson 4. So I sent them some content, a little bit of reading, and I told them to do some highlighting. What else might I send them? I've got a virtual lab I could send them. Let's take a look at this resource. It's an animation, Brain Pops. Some of you are familiar with Brain Pops. Real student-friendly animations that I could send to my students. I'm going to send that to them as well. I'm going to assign this, and I'm going to say, watch, take the quiz, be ready to discuss. And I'm going to make this due on Monday. I think I said Sunday. How about Monday? And I'll make this worth 10 points if they go ahead and complete it. And I'm going to assign this to my student. Now, red bar comes underneath. It automatically shows up in assignments. And there it is, moving. And it automatically shows up in my calendar. So I've got 3 assignments that have been sent to my students. 2 on this webinar and 1 that I sent prior to this webinar. So now we want to take a look at what it looks like on the student side. So have them take a few of these and send it back to me. So if I go to my student side, let me go to Jim. So just to orient you, I'm here on the Jim side right now. And Jim, if you notice over here, his experience looks very similar to the teacher experience, except for one difference. A couple differences, but one of them is he has fewer choices over here. So you can see it's just things that students need, assignments, a calendar, but they don't need a rostering tool and some of the other things you see on the teacher side. And if I go to assignments, as I promised, those are the 3 assignments waiting for my student. And he also has them in the calendar. It's a great way to keep parents in the loop as well. If they have access to their student's username and password, they're going to have access to their calendar and all assignments that you might send to them. So I can access this resource by going right into my calendar, or I could access it from assignments. Either way, as a student, I'll be able to get there. And let's go into that one I sent just a little bit ago, where they have some reading. And here's the instructions I gave them. Read this section, highlight important topics, and take the quiz at the end. Don't forget to submit. Okay, I'm Jim. I'm reading that. I go to this assignment. So here I have that assignment, and it's going to pop up for me. And let me go back just a little bit here. And so here's I went into it earlier, so I highlighted sub. So imagine I hadn't gone in here before, and I'm going to highlight something. So to highlight something, if you want students to do that, they just click and drag on this content. Okay? And when they do, up will pop a little bar here. And if they want to highlight, they click on this location over here. And maybe I want to highlight this green or blue or pink. I'll highlight this green. And maybe I want to make a note for myself, a little annotation. If I do, I click on this little note, and I'll say, teacher said this will be on the test. And I save it for myself. How do I know that I annotated this as a student? Well, this little red dotted line lets me know I have an annotation. So you can see the highlighted green clearly, but to know that a student has an annotation, it's this little red dotted line underneath, letting me know I have a note. And then I can just click on it and I can see the note. I have some other tool as well, like making this a bookmark or place mark. Okay? So my teacher asked me to highlight something, and I did. And I can go through here and I can take a look at that interactive like the teacher did. And I can read it, and I'm just going to go through this really fast. Maybe I want to highlight this as well. I think this is important content. I'll highlight this. I'll highlight this one blue. And so I'm doing everything my teacher told me to. And then at the end, I have some practice here. So these are more self-check practice because I can check the answer here. So I'm just going to go through this really fast. And then check my work. And then at the end, I have a quiz. So the last option is this quiz that's going to be waiting for me. And so let's start this quiz. I'm not going to answer all of these questions. Well, actually, I might give it a try here. Semi-fluid material inside a plasma membrane. Oh, how about cytoplasms, long protein? So I'm just going to answer these randomly just for the sake of time. And I'm going to scroll down here. So your student is probably not going to do very well on this assignment. This student is. I'm just going to answer these very randomly. How about so? How about cell wall? I did choose here. How about microtubules? Save and continue. And the last thing my teacher said to remember is don't forget to submit. So I'm going to make sure I click submit. I saved and I was done. A lot of students might think if they save and they're done, they're done. So make sure to remind them, hey, just make sure you click that submit button. I click submit, and now that assignment has been sent to my teachers. I could view my score if my teachers allow me to do that. So I could view my score. It doesn't look like I did very well on this, okay? So let's go into the teacher side now and see what that looks like when I go in on the teacher side. So if I go into my teacher account, I'm back in as Jason Marshall. I have a student that is submitted. Let's take a look at how they did. So I go into assignments, and I'll see my list of assignments. And here's that assignment. 1 of 10 of my students has submitted. That was Jim. That's the one that we just did for Jim. So it will keep track of who was submitted, and when I want to see Jim's work, I go to this little icon over here called the Chabad Menu. Now, what's real important in this platform is this Chabad Menu. It's a big player. We call it a kebab. You could call it 3 stacked dots, whatever you want to call it. And if you're ever wondering, you know, how do I print something out? How do I assign something? How do I do this or that? I bet you there's a Chabad Menu close by. Sometimes it goes unnoticed, but that's where you go when you want to do a lot of stuff. And you'll see that's true by the time we'll get off of this call. So I want to see how Jim did. So I'm going to go to the Chabad Menu, and I'm going to see View Scores. And when I click View Scores, I'm going to scroll down, and it's going to tell me that Jim has submitted this assignment. And it's going to tell me his score. And I can view his score sheet and see how he did. So I can go in there and see his scores. I can see which ones he missed on this side. So I could do that. But that's not the, and I can make a little comment. Keep reading. You missed more than you should have. So I'm just going to communicate back. And communication is so important in this remote environment. But that was the quiz he took. But I also told him to highlight it a little bit. So I can go back into Jim's work, and I can see that highlighting he did. Okay? So I can go in there, and I can see that highlighting that Jim did, just like I told him to. And maybe I look at that first, and I say, hey, I saw your highlighting. Great. I think you picked out all the key concepts. But you didn't do as well on your quiz as I thought you're capable of. So I can do that on the teacher side and look to see how all of my students have done. Now, if I want to go from student to student, let's say you give this assignment to 10 different people. Once I'm in here as a teacher, I could go from Jim to Lisa to Clyde, or I could go horizontally this way to my different students to see how they did. Now, no other students took this test, so there's no more data on any of these other students. So, but there's nothing to view on their side, but that's how you would do it, is by going right up here. So sending assignments is really easy. Let's review it really fast. Wherever you see assignment, you want to use the search tool, research search tool, and drill into a specific module, and then a lesson. You can go right into that lesson and assign it by clicking the Chabad menu and assign. Okay? Chabad menu and assign. Or you could choose to go into the course view, and when you do, it's going to organize that content into digital file folders. And when you find a file folder, a resource that you want to send to students, click Assign, fill out the template, and click this Assign button, and it's off and running. Okay? Now, 2 resources that I highlighted early that I wanted to show you online was the Science Notebook, Reading Essentials, and the LearnSmart. So let's take a look at these. I'm at the lesson level in Lesson 4, Structures and Organelles. and I'm in the Learning Resources folder. When I go to Learning Resources and open it, I've got my Reading Essentials here. Let's refresh what that looks like. Same content as the textbook, cleaner, more white space. It's written 2 to 3 grade levels below the student textbook. There are opportunities for response and interaction, so you could assign it to your students so they can type into this, save it, and send it back to you. Or they could just print it out at home, whatever you ask them to do. Okay? So it's a more accessible version for more students. Reading Essentials. I want to assign it. I click Assign. Let's go ahead and do it real fast. I want all of my students to get it. If you want certain students to get it, you can choose certain students to get it. Okay? But I want all of my students to get it. I'm going to make this worth 10 points. If you want to send it to multiple classes, there's an option to do that. You don't want to make one assignment for each and every class. You want to make it once and send it to all classes. So this is where it's going to allow you to do that, but I only have one class, so it doesn't give me that option. I'm going to click Assign. Now that's been assigned. And now you're seeing a pattern here. You're seeing that every time I assign something, a red bar shows up underneath it. Every time I assign something, it shows up in assignments. I won't even show you. I know you know that it's there now. And it will also show up in my calendar. And now you know that it will also show up on the student side as well. The other resource I want to make you aware of here at this location is the Science Notebook. I'm going to open up here. This is just to refresh your memory. We took a look at it earlier. Cornell system for notes. Main idea on the left. Indent and put the supporting details to the right. So your students have this structure. As they're reading, they could be reading in the textbook. They could be reading in the Reading Essentials. They could be listening to you when they return to class, hopefully very soon. And they are taking notes here in the Science Notebook as opposed to a spiral journal where their notes are probably pretty disorganized. Here they have some structure. And I could choose to assign it if I wanted to. Now, the dynamic tool that we started off with was called LearnSmart. LearnSmart is the adaptive personalized learning tool. So let's see what it looks like live. So I'm opening it up, and it's going to ask me, okay, which section do you want to go into? I chose cell structure and function. And over here on the right, I have my textbook. It looks just like the student textbook. And I can make it larger or smaller by clicking on these letters down here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller or a little bit larger. Now, if we see green, that means it's content that I've already mastered. If I haven't mastered it yet, that content will be yellow. So it looks like I'm doing pretty well in this section. A lot of content that I've already mastered. Oh, here we have some content that I haven't quite mastered yet. Now, how does the program know what you've mastered and what you haven't mastered? Is over here in the practice section. So what students do once you assign is that they read the section, and once they've gotten far enough, what they'll see is this practice button will start blinking blue, kind of like you see me doing here. I'm doing this manually, but this will do it automatically when it determines students are ready to be assessed. And when they are, they can go to the assessment section and they'll have questions waiting for them. Okay? And if they need to sneak a peek at the content, they can. So if I need to sneak a peek, oh, geez, I just don't think I know this. Let me go read some more. They can always go to read about it, and it will bring that content back up. So I can go ahead and say read it. I can put my confidence level. Okay, I've got that one right. I've got some more work here. I'm going to say I'm unsure. I have no idea. I'm just answering some of these randomly. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, if they could sneak a peek at it and take a look at the answer, how is this an assessment tool? It's really not an assessment tool per se. Think of LearnSmart as a study tool. It guides students on a pathway to mastery. Okay? So it's very analogous to the way we may have studied in college. I don't know about you, but when I was in college, it's been a few years now, I used to have cards. And before a semester test, a midterm, I would have maybe a stack of 50 cards. And on the one side of the card, I'd have a term that I needed to remember. And on the other side of the card, I'd have what I needed to remember about it. And so I had the stack that I had mastered. I had the stack that I sort of knew every now and then. And then I had the stack that, boy, I better do an all-nighter to see if I can remember some of this content. Well, LearnSmart's kind of doing that for your students in a very digital way. and keeping track of all this data so your students don't have to. So don't think of this as an assessment tool, think of it as a study tool, where students have to put their confidence level, and then they have to answer. And if the confidence level and the answer all come together to give LearnSmart an idea of exactly what students' learning state is. So I'm going to peruse just a little bit as a student, as a student might, but as a teacher, you have some reports. So you could dip in and see how students are doing in your classroom. Now, if I want to assign LearnSmart to a student, what does that look like? So we just previewed it. What if I want to make it an assignment? Let's look at assignment and see what that looks like. It looks a little bit different. So I clicked on Sign in LearnSmart, and so it's asking me Inspire Biology or California. I'm not in California, so I'm just going to choose Inspire Biology right here. Now it's going to ask me, okay, what chapter? Since we've been in Chapter 7, let's continue Chapter 7, and I've got a drop-down menu here. Let me click on it. So right now, the default is all of the lessons in Chapter 7 or Module 7 are highlighted. But maybe I don't want to assess them in all of them. Maybe I don't want them to zero in on all of them. So I can deselect these. And notice when I do, the time starts going down, the time it's going to take students, okay, as I deselect these. I could also choose to give them all lessons, but make it a shallower dive, okay? And as I do, notice how the time required is going down. So I could administer this a lot of different ways. A real deep dive, where they're getting multiple times asked the same question a different way, or I could make it a little bit of a shallower dive. Or I could choose to deselect some of these lessons. So I'm going to deselect 2 of these lessons and just assess them on these last 2. I'm going to make it somewhere in the middle, somewhere between a deep and a shallow dive. And I'm going to create this assignment. And when I do that, we're going to see that screen that's very familiar to us now. I'm going to put some points. I'm going to say read in LearnSmart and answer questions as they arise. And I'm going to click Sign. And now that's been sent to my students as well. So it's been a while since we've took a look at the student side. And so I'm going to go back to that student section, and let's take a look and see what that looks like on the student side. Okay. So I'm back here in Jim's site, and I've got some assignments that have been waiting for me. So here we got more assignments. And by the way, everything that gets sent in and submitted on the student side gets removed here from To Do, and will go to past work. So I submitted that lesson on structures and organelles, and I took that little quiz and I submitted it. So it's been done. It's gone. It shows up in past work. It's no longer on my to-do list. And by the way, since we're all working remotely, you're probably got figured out that having a to-do list is real important. It keeps it simple for students. Hey, these are the things I want you to do this week. You get these 5 things done this week, you've done all the work that's responsible for you. And that to-do list is always in the same place, whether that be Google Classroom, whether that be Inspire Science, whether that be a list you email them. I found that teachers are saying that remote learning is really made easy if you just keep it simple for your students and give them a to-do list. And Inspire Science has this to-do list in case you want to use it. And so here I have that reading essentials that my teacher sent me. And so I can open it up. And as a student, I could choose to download this. So I could download this and print it out if I want to. I could, or save it. I could print it out if I want to. I can also choose to type on it and save it after I've typed on it, and then send it back completed if that's what I want to do. Okay? So that's an option for me as a student. Okay? Let's take a look at another assignment that I sent to my students. I sent them this video here just a little bit ago. That was that brain pop video. I could watch it. It says, watch, take a quiz, be ready to discuss. So I'm a student. I'm going to watch this little quiz. It's a little animation, pretty fun stuff. 2 characters, Tim and Moby, and I can choose to either take that quiz or not take that quiz. It's up to my teachers if that's what I wanted them to do. And then I have this, what haven't we taken here? Oh, here we have LearnSmart. So here I have the LearnSmart, and then they'd go in and they'd have this LearnSmart experience. And it'll look just like what we saw when we went in to have a student preview. They'll have the textbook on the right, and they'll have the content that supports it on the, or the quizzes, the ability to practice on the left. So I'm going to go a little bit further in this text, and here's cell structure and function. That's what I sent to them. I can go in here and I can read. A little small for me, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. You might be asking, well, what's all of this over here on the left? This allows them to hyperlink forward to different locations within the chapter. So I can go from lesson to lesson, jump right into the plasma membrane if that's what I want to do. If you don't want students to have this stuff open, or if the students don't want to, they just click on this little icon here in the upper left, these 4 blue squares, and it will close that out. And it's just the book that they can focus on now. They read, and then when they're ready to assess, this little practice button will start blinking. And you know what? If they think they're ready prior to it blinking, they can go straight into practice. I don't know how much of that you could hear, but that was a coach that popped up and basically told me, hey, you haven't even read anything yet. You sure you want to keep, you start answering questions without having read? So what's kind of reassuring is that your students have this coach along the way. So if they start getting a little bit off task, the coach will come up. She also comes up if they start answering questions incorrectly, like 3 or 4 in a row. The coach will come up and say, hey, you might want to read a little bit more. And this little read button will start blinking again, telling students to go back in there and start reading some more. Okay, so that's the LearnSmart assignment that was sent to my students. So as a teacher, I've got a lot of tools in my toolbox at the high school level to be able to send to students in this remote learning environment, okay? Both print and digital resources. One of the, so we've perused finding resources here, a keyword search, and then filtering down into modules and lessons. And then we took a look at our digital table of contents, which is organized by file folders, which I can jump into a specific module and then a specific lesson within that module, which will have that same content organized in these handy little file folders. What we haven't looked at yet, by the way, when we get to evaluate, there'll be some assessments down here at the module and the lesson level. So if you want to give them a pop quiz, it's pre-made, just go ahead and click on assign and you can send that to them. What we haven't looked at yet is assessments. So assessments has pre-made tests and quizzes ready to deliver to your students. So I'm in, we've been using cell structure and function, so let's just go right into there. And I've got pre-made tests and quizzes that I can send to my students. A lesson check for the plasma membrane. I've got a module test here for cell structure and function, or a module pretest. And if I want to take a look at it, I just click on it, and I can take a look at what the questions look like and decide if that's something I want to use. So let's take a look at this module test. If that's something you decide you want to use, it's very easy to assign it. Remember I told you there was a very big player, a very important icon? That was the Chabad menu. So if I want to send this module test, I click on the Chabad menu and then click Assign. I click Assign, and a screen very familiar to us by now will appear. I want this due by a week from now. Do I want to share it to Google Classroom? I can if I want to, but I'll say no for now. Then I've got some other choices here as to what I want them to be able to see. Do I may view scores but not answers? That'll work for me. We'll have to change that. May view after completing assignment? No, I'll keep it as is. I even have some additional settings down here. So do I want to give them an introduction? Do I want them to have access to text-to-speech? A line reader? Text-to-speech is a feature a lot of teachers have been requesting. So I could give them access to that. I'll go ahead and do that. A calculator? Some of the physical sciences, physical science, chemistry, you want them to have a calculator. I give them access to all this, and once I have it perfect, I click Assign. Now that test is being sent to my students. And it will show up here in my assignments, module tests that I sent to my students. Okay? Now, what if I go to assessments and I don't want to send a pre-made test? I want to create one of my own. Okay? I want to pick and choose the questions that are on this test. So in this case, I don't want to go to a pre-made test. I want to go to a new assessment. And so I'm going to call this Monday Remote Learning Test. And that will be my title for it. And I'm going to click Create Assessment. So first thing it's going to ask me is, okay, where do you want to pull these questions? Now, if you're like me, you know, I don't want to recreate the wheel if I don't have to. Does McGraw-Hill have a bank of questions that I can pick and choose from? Then I can kind of take a look at them and maybe choose some but not others. I'd rather start that way before I create my own test questions. If you're thinking like me, what you want to go to is Add Question from Assessment. So what it will do is pull up all those pre-made tests that we have in our bank, and you could choose which ones you want to pull from. So let's say we're at cell structure and organelles. I want to go into that module test for cell structure and function. And I want to take a look at all the questions, see if this is what I want to use. So let me preview them all. Okay, I'm going to click Preview them all. And so now I can look at them one at a time. And I can decide whether or not I want to add them. Yeah, we covered this. I'm going to add this to my test. So it's been added. How about question number 2? Let me take a look at the choices here. Yeah, I think they should know this. I'm going to click Add. It's been added. Now we're on question 3. And yeah, I'm going to add this. And let me get to 5 questions here really fast. And I'll click Add. Yes, I'm going to add those. So I want those to be a part of my test. Okay. So now those 5 have shown up over here. Those are the 5 questions that I've chosen. I could also, some of you might not need to preview all. Some of you might just look at the list. You might be thinking, well, I can't even see the whole question. How am I going to know if I want to use it or not? If you put your cursor on it, the whole question will appear to you. Okay? So you might just say, yeah, I like this one. And I like that one. That's content that we covered. Let me pick 5 more here. Let me take a look at this question. Yep, they better get that right. And I like this one. And how many do we have here? 4 more. Let me choose 1 more. How about this fill in the blank 5? And then I click Add. Now those 5 have been added to the test over here. So we have a 10-question test over here. I created by picking and choosing the question myself. This is a new test. This is one that I created. I just chose questions that have already been created from McGraw-Hill. I'm going to click Save and Exit. Make sure to save it. Now you might be asking, well, where did that test go? Where is it going to show up? Any test that you create that is made from scratch, that's a new test, will show up in My Assessments. You don't have to save it on your desktop. You don't have to save it on a disk or any hard drive. It will always show up in this assessment platform in the My Assessment section. And here's this remote learning test. So a lot of times we're on our laptop and we're not even close to a printer, right? We're in the Starbucks, we're out in the backyard, we're maybe on a device, our phone even. If we want to create a test on the phone, we could do that with this platform. But then we get home and we want to make or at the classroom and then we want to print it out. So maybe I'm connected to my printer now. I could print this test out. Or since we're working remotely, I'm probably going to assign it. Probably don't need to print it. I'm probably going to assign it. So here's that remote test that we just created. And I'm going to click Assign to my students. Just like before, I have some choices to make. I'm going to make this due Tuesday. I chose Monday. Let me choose Tuesday. And then I'm going to click Assign, and that will be waiting for my students. So the assessment section has a lot of different tools that I think you'll find very valuable. Pre-made tests, quizzes that you could send remotely, and the ability to create your own. Now I've got a pretty long list of assignments that I've sent to my students remotely now. And if I go to my student side, I may have popped out of him accidentally. Let me open up Jim in an incognito window. And let's take a look at Jim's side. If I do that, give me just a moment to open up. And got a new router, so it takes just a second to open up. a new window for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But Jim will open up here in a second. Come on, Jim. Here we go. And I'm going to type in Jim1, log in as Jim, go into that biology class that he happens to be a part of. And here's my assignments that will show up in my dashboard screen, the first screen that I see, my assignment section, and my calendar as well. Okay? The last thing I'm going to share with you, in case some of you have this, is Sync Blast. And if you don't, I encourage you to reach out to your McGraw-Hill representative to ask them for this. Because these are current events, they're really cool. And so I open this up, and these are updated weekly. There are 494 available. And let's say I'm a biology teacher. There's a lot going on in this world right now that I want to bring into my instruction. I can click on high school biology. Let's take a look at all the blasts available to me. One of them is going viral. One of them is coronavirus explained. Let me take a look at it. And I could choose to preview this as a student and see what they see on their side. So I'm going to preview this as a student. And so they have this video that they watch. They have some information about the coronavirus. There's a fun fact or a factoid, 2020, what would that represent related to the coronavirus? If you said the CDC recommends that people wash their hands for 20 seconds, you are correct. I have links here to take me out to additional websites for more exploration, right? But what makes these blasts so cool is that I have these interactives over here to the right. I have a quick poll. I have vocabulary activity here for me as a student. I have a little comprehension section, okay? And then I have this blast. The blast is what makes it very current. This is where students are going to send out a tweet or a little comment on their thinking on this. Everything that they've read, all that they've researched, what are they thinking about what they've heard about coronavirus? And this gets shared with everybody in the class, and every student can do some peer review. And so if I type in my answer, another student can comment, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Did you also notice this? I went online and did some research and it said this, and you have all this collaboration going on in the class. So as a teacher, if I want to send it remotely, it's very easy. I want to use this as a blast. So I click Use This Blast. I choose who I want to receive it. I want my biology teachers to receive it. I give a due date. This due date is fine with me. Do I want them to see research links? I click yes, I do, and it says, okay, do you understand that they're going to go outside of Inspire Science? I'm okay with that. My students are responsible enough. So I'm going to give them research links. And then I could choose to increase the blast link. If you think 140 characters isn't enough, give them 280 to really express themselves. I could even change some things like lexile level. So if I want to customize it, I can come down here and change the lexile level, even for certain students if I want to. Now, once I've made it perfect, I click Create Assignment, and that assignment has been sent to my students. If I go in on Jim's side, I go into Sync Blast, and I have this Sync Blast waiting for me. So Jim has been sent to Sync Blast. It's called Coronavirus Explained. I must have sent it to him earlier, so he's got it twice. So he goes in there and he has that coronavirus activity waiting for them and waiting to send his opinion based on all of his research to the classes and to his peers and get all that peer feedback back. So this has been a short overview of Inspire Science for high school and how you might use it remotely. I'm going to take a look at the chat window and see if there's some questions out there that I might be able to address. Okay, let me scroll right down here. How do you create a classroom to work with the Inspire Physics book? So what I would direct you to is go to, that's something we're probably not going to address on this call, but if you go to the help section, right up here, your name and then the help section. And if you want to get students in the class, you want to get them started with navigation and setup and licensing, all that information for getting students into your class will be found in this location right here. And if you need help above that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we can walk you through it in a webinar. I had somebody that couldn't hear. I apologize. Sometimes with these webinars, you can't hear. Since we're promoting and teaching, time is 20 minutes. Can we chunk the lesson into small lessons? How can we break down the assignments into small assignments? That's a good question. What I would say to that is that the way Inspire Science is created, it's already sort of broken down into small lessons. So let me show you something we showed earlier. So if I'm in my course view, and I'm in, let's say, cellular energy, and let's say I go into photosynthesis. Remember, we have this area here in our file folders that we call learning objects. So each one of these is a chunk. It's a really small chunk. It's perfect for what you're asking for. So if I go into one of these little chunks of information, there's going to be some reading. There might be an interactive or two. Okay, so here I have page 1 of 3. I've got some reading on photosynthesis. Okay, it's a chunk. I go to page 2. Got just a little bit more. I've got some practice that it's asking me to do. Okay, and then it's probably got a little check here, a little assessment. If I go into another chunk, let's take a look at this next one. Same thing. So it's broken down that lesson into really small chunks that are honestly, they're tailor-made for a remote learning environment. Because you're not going to assign them the entire lesson and say, hey, get back to me in 10 days or get back to me at the end of the week. You probably want to give them a little chunk, something that they can come back to you at the end of the day or the next day. And that's exactly what each one of these little learning objects does. So go ahead and assign one of these. It's a chunk of the lesson. In this case, photosynthesis. Great question. Let me go into, let's see what other questions we have here. Let me scroll down here. How much does this cost? I would reach out to your local representative. If you don't have that person's name, feel free to reach out to me. By the way, you can go ahead and take a picture or write down my email address. If there's something that I didn't address here, feel free to reach out to me. Your local sales representative can give you the cost of this program, talk to you about Sync Blast, talk about getting you involved. They can give you access to it as well. So if you want to take a look at it, have a username and password to go to the places that I've been to, they can do that. We even do pilots for districts. So if you want to do a pilot, get students involved, you can as well. If they give you a demo account, you're not going to be able to get students on and send work back and forth. The demo account will just be for you, the teacher. You take a look at the resources and see if you like them and that sort of thing. Are there virtual labs separate from the hands-on labs in print? Does the unit module have virtual labs? Yes. So yes, the short answer is yes. So let me go into Inspire Science. And let's say I were to go into resources. Let's just say I type in keyword search of virtual. So I did keyword search of virtual in biology, and you can see how many virtual labs there are in biology. Some of these are answer keys, so ignore those. But the other ones are all individual investigations. Okay, again, ignore the ones that say answer key. And so I believe in biology there may be 27. I may be off, but look, we have 4 pages here. Let's go to page 2. More virtual labs. There may be more than that, but that's how I would find the virtual labs. I just did a keyword search. You'll also find them in the course view. So if you go right into a specific lesson, chances are you're going to find them in the module library. So let me go to the module level, then go to a module library. And if I do, if there was a virtual lab, it'll typically be here. So you can either go to course view resources or course view and find them in the course view resources, do keyword search, or find them in the file folders. Great question. But yes, we do have a bunch of virtual labs. Probably more than you're ever going to use, but you could definitely send them remotely. I need help setting up 2 different types of science classes. Who should I contact? I would reach out to your local sales representative. If you don't know who that is, you can reach out to me, and I want to direct you to another location as well while I have you. mheducation.com will answer a lot of the questions that I'm getting here. So how do I find my local representative? how do I find additional content for remote learning? Here you'll find free resources that you can access, access to demo account information, videos for you, the teacher working remotely, videos that you could direct your parents to how to work out remotely. So go to mheducation.com, and if you can't find your local representative there, feel free to email me and I'll try to put you in touch. If you do email me and that's what you're looking for, make sure you tell me where you live and what school district you're in, and I'll try to find that information for you. Any way you could send some info you shared with us today, it was too much and I had too many cool things I would like to try. We're glad to hear that. I'm glad you saw something that you'd like to try. Send me an email with your email address that you were the person asking me for some information, and I'll send you some stuff that you can take a look at. Or to go to mheducation.com and reach out to your local representative, and they can give you just about anything you need, including a hard copy of the book if you want to sample the book, demo account information with access to the platform that I went to, all that stuff. Your sales representative can give you more than I can, so I always like to refer people there. And it's a personal touch because they're probably close to where you're at. How do you link the lessons to the student's Google Classroom? Well, I'm not going to go into depth on Google Classroom, but the first thing you're going to want to do is link your class to Google Classroom. So if I go to, let me move some stuff out of here. If I go up here and click Manage Account, you want to link your classroom to Google Classroom. They're going to be obviously going to need to be in Google Classroom. Then when I create an assignment, let's say go over here. Let's say I want to send an assignment, send something to my students. Let me go into a resource here. Let me go into my course view. How about course? Let me find a resource. Oh, how about this reading essentials? Let's say I want to send to students. Or better yet, let's say it's something that I've already sent to students. I'm going to go to assignments. And let's say I want to share it to Google Classroom. So I have this reading essentials here. And one of my options will be share with Google Classroom. And if I create a test, it will always ask me, hey, do you want to share it to Google Classroom? But let's say if you create an assignment after the fact, you could go to the Chabad menu, click share with Google Classroom, and then your Google Classroom will come up. And then you have to decide, okay, which class do I want this to be linked to? My adjacent science class. What kind of assignment do I want to be? I want to create an assignment. And then click go. And so then you fill out this information. If you're a Google Classroom user, you're familiar with all this. But here's what's important on the student side. In order for them to access this assignment, this reading essentials you send to them, they're going to have to be logged in as a student into the McGraw-Hill site. Okay? If they're not logged into the McGraw-Hill site, if they only go to the Google site and try to open it, it's going to ask them to enter their username and password to get it to our site. So it will not allow the students to access our content, without them having their username and password at our site up and running. So that's important to know. Okay. I will reach out, and thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback, Beth. Thanks so much for sharing some time with us today. If you have any questions about science, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help you. All of us are working remotely just like you. It's a different way of doing things, and we're here to help you. And so feel free to reach out to your local representative, to me, or to that mheducation.com to get the information you need. Best of luck. Hope to hear from you. Let us know at any time. Feel free to reach out. Let us know if we can help. Take care now, and best of luck.